Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. Now when it comes to winter preps, people tend to think of two things. First of all, they think of staying warm, and then after that they think of staying fed. So that means that things like generators, propane heaters, lights, and food are usually at the top of their list. However, there's a lot more to winter preparedness than just staying warm and preserving your food. So in this video, I'm going to be covering some essential winter preps that a lot of people overlook. The first group of preps that people tend to overlook is water. Extremely cold temperatures can wreak havoc on municipal water delivery systems and the plumbing of private homes. Because of this, you need to have some water stored inside of your home in case you lose running water. The big barrels that you keep outside, they're great for bulk water storage, but they are going to be vulnerable to freezing. So having some filled portable water containers in your home will ensure that you have some drinking water. And there's a lot of options out there. Like you see, I have a water brick here. I've used aquatainers a lot in the past. But the main thing for these is to just make sure that they seal up all the way. Like some of the cheaper ones that you see at like Walmart and places like that, they just have a little stopper up at the top which covers up the vent. Those, a lot of times, they kind of come out when you don't want them to, and that can let dust and other stuff inside those containers, which you don't want. One thing that my family likes to do is we keep a few packages of bottled water on hand that we constantly rotate through, and then we can use the water in our portable water containers as a secondary option. And it also wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and store some additional water once you realize that a particular situation or storm is going to be pretty serious. Water bobs and aqua pods are a good choice for this. They fit in your tub and allow you to keep any water that you store in them clean for several weeks. But if you can't get one of those, then buckets are a good backup option. If you have non-food grade buckets like this one, then they can be used for keeping water in to do things like flush toilets or maybe just cleaning tasks around the house, maybe not dishes. But if you have food grade buckets you can put clean water in, then you can use that for all of those things plus additional drinking water. When you lose running water, there's a very good chance that when you get it back, you're going to be under a boil water notice for at least a few days. Having a good water filter is going to make your life a lot easier in that situation because you're not going to have to boil everything that you use for drinking, brushing your teeth, or even cleaning dishes. The Sawyer tap, it's a good option for this because it fits right over your faucet in your kitchen sink. You just turn the water on and it filters the water as it passes through, and it's effective against bacteria, protozoa, and can remove 100% of microplastics. You'll also want to preserve as much water as you can if you're in a situation like that. And getting things like paper plates and bowls, also some disposable utensils like these, they'll help with that since you won't have to use as much water cleaning dishes. Mountain House meals are also nice in that situation because all you got to do is boil a little bit of water and pour them directly into the bag, so there's not going to be a whole lot of cleanup. Using things like hand sanitizers and personal wet wipes can help you stay clean without having to use a lot of additional water. Then as far as cleaning your home goes, sanitizing wipes are a good choice, and use paper towels whenever possible because that'll help reduce the amount of laundry that you got to do. And if you're trying to start something like a rocket stove outside, then you can use those paper towels for that. And you may also be in a situation where you have to shut off your home's water supply. Very low temperatures can cause pipes to burst, and you may need to act quickly to get that water shut off to reduce the amount of damage done to your home. Or you may be proactive. You know it's going to get really cold, so you just go ahead and shut the water off and drain the water that you already have in your pipes so it can't, freeze, expand, and then mess stuff up. If you do that, you just want to be very careful when you're turning your water back on because if you do it too quickly, it can cause something called a water hammer, which the water comes rushing in and it slams up against the end of the pipes and it can mess up those pipes and your fixtures. Now, a lot of people, they use just your normal little rebar looking T-handle tool. I picked this one up a while back. It looks a little sturdy. I'm not 100% happy with it though because it has this pokey thing on the end that's supposed to be used to pry things, but to me that just looks like a very good way to impale oneself, so I'm probably just going to go ahead and grind that off. Faucet covers are a decent choice if things don't get too terribly cold, and there's also a new product. This is called the Freeze Miser, and it just screws on to the end of your spigot. You turn the water all the way on, and it won't drip until things start to get down below freezing. There's like a little part in here that'll shrink when that happens and it'll allow it to drip. It did not work for my spigots. I need to do some maintenance on my spigots outside of my house. When I put this on there and I turn the water on, it leaks out of the top. So if you know your faucets outside aren't in the best shape, you probably want to get those fixed before you pick something like this up. Another group of winter preps that people overlook is safety gear. Winter power outages are hazardous because people are using things like heaters, camp stoves, candles, and generators, and other stuff that they don't normally use on a daily basis, and because of this, accidents become much more common. Having a battery-operated carbon monoxide alarm can help you stay safe anytime you're using something combustible in or near your home. Even doing something like using a generator outside of your house, if you're not careful, can cause that carbon monoxide to seep in. So having a good quality alarm can allow you and your family to know if you're being exposed to that. Fires are another thing that you need to think about. Having smoke alarms along with good fresh batteries to go in them is essential, and then also picking up a good quality fire extinguisher. Because first of all, you don't want anything to happen, but if it does, you need to be able to deal with it as quickly as possible, because if you're in a situation where the water utilities are out and your house is on fire, the firefighters aren't going to be able to get the water that they need to put that house fire out. Another prep that people overlook when it comes to winter emergencies is having multiple cooking methods. A lot of folks, they just plan on using things like their gas grill or maybe like a portable camp stove like this. And both of those are good options. But with a grill, you got to remember, maybe you're in a situation where cooking outside isn't the best thing to do at that particular moment because of weather conditions. Or with a camp stove like this, maybe you're using your propane for both something like this and something like a propane space heater so that fuel will run out quicker than what you're expecting. Those are just some things to think about. But having some backup, something like an alcohol stove, will allow you to cook safely indoors. Butane stoves are another good option, but just remember that butane will not vaporize at 31 degrees or below. So during cold weather power outages, that's something that you definitely want to consider. You also need to have some lighters as a backup way of getting grills, stoves, and fireplaces lit if their normal ignition systems don't work. And longer grill style lighters like these are a good option since they're going to be easier to use with those kinds of devices. And if you plan on using something like a rocket stove, then having some storm-proof matches like these would be a good way to make sure that you can get that lit. Then of course a ferro rod would be a good backup as well. Another important winter prep that people overlook is medications and first aid. Now we're getting into cold and flu season, so first of all you want to make sure that you have those kind of medications. I have found that for me and my purposes, real Sudafed, like the kind you get from behind the pharmacy counter, this is far better than pretty much anything else available just out in the normal part of a pharmacy or, you know, like medicine section at a big box store. And Mucinex is very good for chest congestion. Aside from that, have other things like distill water if you have a humidifier, because it may be a situation where maybe you have power, but you just can't leave your home. So you don't necessarily want to go to the doctor because of, you know, road safety reasons. Then also other first aid supplies, just normal things like bandages, antiseptics, triple antibiotic ointment, things like that could be very useful if you couldn't or did not want to leave your home. Winter tools are another thing that people forget, especially if they live in an area where they don't have to use them all that often. Like where I am, it doesn't really snow or get ice all that much, but when it does, since we don't normally think of those things, we're caught off guard quite a bit. Something like a snow shovel, of course, is going to help because it's going to scoop up more at a time, going to make your job a lot easier, make it go faster. Also, scrapers are very helpful because they can help break up ice. And then even other times of the year, if you're doing something like gardening or yard work, you can use them to break through roots also, so they have more than just one purpose. Also, ice melt's good to have if you're somebody like me. I don't know if you can tell, but my driveway, it is on an incline. So if for some reason I miss some of that ice and then I back up and I lose traction, I'm gonna turn my double bay garage into a single bay garage after the dust clears in probably the most unfun way imaginable. You also want to winterize your vehicles because extreme cold can do some pretty rough things to them, especially the battery. So having something like a battery jump pack that's going to be helpful. And y'all, a specific vehicle kit for winter, that could kind of be its own video. I may do that in the future as well. And I did a video a few weeks ago showing ways to stay warm during a winter power outage, but there were some that I left out or some that are just worth covering again. So one of those is using plastic sheeting and tape to create a microclimate. You can also use a tent for this, but small spaces are a lot easier to heat up than larger ones. And if you're doing something like that, then things like hurricane lanterns and then also candle lanterns are a good choice for this because they give off a little bit of heat and they also give a little bit of light. They serve a dual purpose. But these are also enclosed, so they're going to be a little bit safer than just using a regular candle or using something like a regular oil lamp that, you know, just has a little removable glass chimney on top. Of course, you still have to be very careful when using these because anything with an open flame can be a fire hazard, and it can also be a carbon monoxide hazard in certain situations. Electric blankets can be a good option if you still have power or you have access to something like a solar generator. This particular one, it's a 12-volt version, so it doesn't get as hot as probably some AC versions just because it uses lower wattage, but it can last for a very long time, even with a small solar power station. This thing with the River 2, it'll run 4 hours off of that, which is pretty good. And of course, it'll run longer with something bigger. Now, the manufacturer does say don't run this for more than 1 hour at a time, but it could still be useful if you're just trying to take the edge off of that cold. But one option that really impressed me is the Zippo hand warmer. I'd seen these for a while. I wanted to test them out. They just run on lighter fluid, just like a normal Zippo lighter would. These can run 12 hours, maybe more. When I tested it out the other day, it literally ran all day long. So I think this is going to be something good to take hunting with me, and then also kind of to have for situations where, you know, we're dealing with a cold weather power outage. You just need to keep your hands warm. It comes with a little measuring cup that you can use to make sure that you don't overfill it, which is nice. The only thing about this is that it can be rather difficult to light. It's kind of hard to tell if it's lit or not. So you might kind of need to do it in a little bit of a low light setting just so you can see if this burner just has a faint glow to it. Now, if you want to see a more full list of ways that you can stay warm during a winter power outage, be sure to check out this video. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.